Oh, that's awkward, yeah. Awkward pause there. Didn't realise. I forgot I pressed the live button. So yeah, dead silence. Dead silence there. We should be live. Just gonna check my phone quickly, just to make sure. Maybe not. Because I talk to myself incessantly. Yeah. Yeah, YouTube's being really weird with live streams now. I don't know why. Yeah, YouTube's being really weird. So on my phone, it just says it's waiting to start. Oh, there we go. But yeah, it's a bit weird. What's I know for? Yeah, they've started already with talking about Scotland. Oliver Drury is going to be here. So I miss Dominic Raab already. Because from what I've heard about Dowden, he's worse. So.
Just left stranded. But last week, we learned that a Green Scottish Government minister had chartered a private yacht to visit the Isle of Rome. Does the Secretary of State share my concerns that...
Let me know what the mix is like here.
...the Scottish Government is misusing taxpayers' money while the islands are left without transport connections?
I think that's a Labour MP, you know.
Mr. Speaker, I certainly do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State, of course, will know.
Start with Labour attacking the SNP. Interesting.
Are currently conducting an inquiry into how Scotland is promoted internationally. All we've heard is just how well the UK and Scottish Government work together about the added value that the Scottish Government mission brings to that promotion. So why is he determined to pick a fight unnecessarily and get in the way of this business?
I think those Scottish people rolled their arse like that. That's quite interesting.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable gentleman will know from my submission to his committee and its inquiry, that is not what I think. What I think is that the UK government should work with the devolved administrations to promote them overseas, to promote trade overseas. But I also believe is that when the devolved administrations are using our missions overseas, they should be not using them to promote their plans for separation, nor to undermine our foreign policy.
Kevin Foster. Question number 5, please, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I will answer questions 5 and 13 together. Scotland Office ministers and officials have regular discussions with colleagues across government about Lord Hendy's Union Connectivity Review. Indeed, I recently met with stakeholders to discuss cross-border rail services between Scotland and England and to learn more about a range of transport connectivity projects. We're also engaging with the devolved administrations and other stakeholders.
Oh, I'm going to switch to the Guardian feed because it's high quality.
Restrictions which the Scottish Fishermen's Federation have called fundamentally flawed on 10% of our waters. There's no trialling, there's no pilot scheme. So, will the Secretary of State commit to sharing the details of the pilot scheme, which I know the UK government is running, with the Scottish government?
It's not a contest, gang. It's not a contest, but I appreciate it. Green MSP used chartered ferries so she could spend more time with islanders than using Carmack ferries, which is every 2 hours. Alright, got you.
And continue to press for measures which will support rather than restrict.
I mean, you can plan out your route a bit better, I guess, if you know they're going to come up every 2 hours, but sure.
Mr. Speaker, yeah, I say to the Honourable Lady, we will share the results of those pilot schemes, and I would just reiterate what the Prime Minister said, I think, at PMQs last week to the Honourable gentleman from Caithness and Sutherland, which is that the Scottish Government should U-turn on this issue.
And the fishing industry in Scotland, that we are not against conservation and sustainability.
Where's the big man?
In principle, but does my right honourable friend agree that the haste with which the Scottish Government is trying to implement its highly protected marine areas policy is yet another case of the green tail wagging the SNP dog, and this could have an extremely damaging consequence for coastal communities right across Scotland, including mine in Banff and Buchan?
Okay, there's the big man. Small man, should I say. Short king? Is he a short king? I don't know.
Well, for those that have heard the question, the answer is yes.
Right, we now come to Prime Minister's questions. Cat Smith.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
It's Oliver Drury.
Mr. Speaker,
Hope you guys don't need a sleep aid because this will put you right to bed.
I have been asked to reply on behalf of my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister. He is currently travelling to Japan to attend the G7 summit. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that colleagues from across the House will join me in congratulating Liverpool for its wonderful staging of the Eurovision Song Contest on behalf of Ukraine.
A lot of EU flags there, bro. There are a lot of EU flags there.
Mr. Speaker, this
That is an interesting suit colour.
morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, and in addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
His speech cadence is really off-putting.
The Royal Lancaster Infirmary is a 130-year-old crumbling hospital and was meant to be one of the government's 40 new hospitals. However, the funding announcement has been delayed 4 times already, so can the Deputy Prime Minister reassure my constituents that this is not going to be another broken Tory promise?
It's a good start.
I can absolutely assure the Honourable Lady that we remain fully committed to those 40 hospitals from our manifesto, and indeed, we have already provided 3...
I'm already sick of this. I'm about a minute into him speaking, and I'm struggling here.
£0.9 billion worth of initial capital.
His voice is like, it's like shrieky almost. Like, I know that's a thing they say about like certain like women's voices, but his voice is like almost like shrill or something. I can't explain it, but it just doesn't. It doesn't sit right with me. His voice.
Craig McKinley.
I've never heard that in a dude before.
I have a very serious matter affecting every constituency to bring to my right honourable friend's attention. Amazon have been facilitating the sale of counterfeit postage stamps from China, virtually perfect except for the barcode. I've contacted the NCA, the National Trading Standards, and I'm afraid I've received woeful responses. I've now sent my concerns to the Serious Fraud Office and the Economic Crime Unit of the City of London Police. Amazon are patently facilitating remittances of illegal gotten cash, and I believe this is in contravention of the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act 1981. Can my right honourable friend assist me in taking this further?
All right, that's an interesting question.
Well, Mr. Speaker, may I pay tribute to my honourable friend? I know how hard he has been campaigning on this important issue. The Home Secretary will have heard his remarks. I would say that the Digital Markets and Competition and Consumer Bill does put duties on those platforms, and ultimately, if fraud is being perpetrated, the police should take action.
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Angela Rayner.
All right, let's see what Rayner's got this week.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's a pleasure to welcome yet another Deputy Prime Minister to the dispatch box. The third deputy that I've faced in 3 years, and you know what they say, the third time's a charm. And I'm also pleased to note, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister has a working class friend, finally.
Not bad.
I seem to remember that after the loss of 300 Conservative seats at last year's local elections, the right honourable gentleman resigned, saying someone must take responsibility. After 1,000 more Conservative councillors had been given the boot by voters, who does he think is responsible now?
All right, good question.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of the Right Honourable Lady's opening remarks, can I just say it really is a pleasure to see the Right Honourable Lady here today. I was, though, expecting to face the Labour leader's choice for the next Deputy Prime Minister if they win the election.
Reeves.
So I'm surprised that the Lib Dem leader isn't taking questions there.
I mean, that was a trash. That was such a trash response. I don't know what to make of that one. I mean, it doesn't even make sense on the face of it, that response. That was terrible, guys. That was awful. Please don't say we're in for an hour of this or 40 minutes of this. God, that was bad. That was awful.
And Mr. Speaker, you will forgive me.
Guys, these questions I'm pretty sure are pre-written, so he would have time to plan a response, and that was his response that he planned out. We all got to put up with Fearless, but this is dire, guys. Like, you should have just put Jeremy Hunt in. Honestly, I would have no. Okay, I'm not going to speak about Jeremy Hunt actually.
Mr. Speaker,
that was awful, guys.
You will forgive me if I take the right honourable lady's predictions with a pinch of salt. After all,
she didn't make a prediction.
She confidently predicted that the right honourable member for Islington
North.
Oh,
Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, we're going to talk about Jeremy Corbyn because that's all they have. That's all they have. Honestly, oh my God, that's embarrassing.
Be Prime Minister. Remember, this is a man. She
didn't ask you for a prediction, big man, as far as I remember. She just said, you know, who do you blame for losing 1,000 council seats? Because last time something like this happened, you resigned, apparently. So what are you talking about, dog?
Abolish the army, scrap Trident, withdraw from NATO, and abandon Ukraine. And what did she say to that? She couldn't wait for him to be Prime Minister.
Deputy Prime Minister.
There wasn't even a war in Ukraine when Corbyn was in charge. So how would you say we should abandon? How would she have supported the notion we should abandon Ukraine? And her backing of Jeremy Corbyn confirms that. What is Bro talking about?
Mr. Speaker, it's absolutely amazing that while the Labour Party is preparing to govern with a Labour majority,
good luck with that.
His party is starting to prepare for opposition, Mr. Speaker. And this week at the National Conservative Conference, a member for Devisers blamed the country's problems on a new religion. He even hit out at the dystopian fantasy of John Lennon. The member for Pentonstone and Stockbridge said identifying falling birthing rates is the overarching threat to the UK. She criticised woke teaching for destroying children's souls and causing self-harm and suicide among people. And the Right Honourable Member for North East Somerset really let the cat out the bag when he said parties that try to gerrymander end up finding their clever schemes come back to bite them, as dare I said we found when insisting on voter ID. The Right Honourable gentleman opposite, while working in Number 10, said he had to listen to the radio every morning to find out what was really going on in the country. Apparently, he was surprised on a daily basis by what he learned. And most of his time was spent on day-to-day crisis management. 11 years on, Mr. Speaker, nothing has changed.
It's a bit wordy. I would have stuck it. I would have ended it with the gerrymandering point. But the fact that Mogg admitted that is pretty mad. Is absolutely insane that he openly said that they tried to gerrymander the election or the local elections. That's mental, honestly. Criticising Dowden for like listening to the radio, whatever, that's fine, I guess. But I would have ended it with the gerrymandering. I think that's the more important thing.
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm not quite sure what the question was there, Mr. Speaker. But
there really wasn't one.
If she wants to talk about this sort of thing, we all know what's going on with her and her leader. It's all lovey-dovey on the surface. They turn it on for the cameras, but as soon as they're off, it's a different story. They're at each other's throats. Mr. Speaker,
I mean, I'm as confused as Rachel Reeves is right now, and it's very rare I would agree with Rachel Reeves on much. I'm going to ask you guys a question again, right? What is Bro talking about? Like, on the when the cameras are on, they act like they're really happy, but when the camera's off, they're constantly fighting. That's not good or whatever. Like, this attack line is. But this man was a bad pick for deputy PM.
they're the Phil and Holly of British politics.
What is like? Who is this? Like, no one cares about this stuff, man. No one cares. Oh, you're the Phil and Holly of politics. No one cares, bruv. Honestly, you're in charge. This is serious stuff here.
Deputy Leader.
Bro is obsessed.
Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reality is, after
I read that this morning. I'll cover that at some point soon.
13 years of Tory rule, they're still lurching from crisis to crisis and wallowing in their own mess. They can't solve the crisis because they are the crisis.
Damn, that's a good one. They can't solve the crisis because they are the crisis. That's a good one. I like that one.
Opposite should take more note of what's happening at his conferences in his party before trying to make up what's happening in mine. The Prime Minister pledged that by March, NHS waiting lists would fall. It's now May. So can he tell us, since he made that pledge, is the number of people waiting on late waiting lists higher or lower?
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, we are making good progress, for example, with two-year waiting lists. But
You missed. One of Sunak's 5 pledges was to get down the waiting list by I think it was last month or this month. He failed to do that, so you're not doing very well at this.
the Right Honourable Lady seems to forget a crucial fact. The United Kingdom experienced an unprecedented
Bro, we all experienced the pandemic. Every country on this world experienced the pandemic. You know, which other countries dealing with the wait list? Developed countries are dealing with the wait list we have. I'll wait, honestly.
pandemic. Right before
Bro.
COVID, GP satisfaction was high. Delayed discharges were half. Ambulance targets were being met.
That's not
And
even
she
true.
knows that-
I don't think ambulance targets were even being met even then. He's talking nonsense. I hope someone asks him to correct the record next week.
Right now, in Labour-run Wales, exactly the same challenges are being faced. The difference between us is, on this side of the House, we've got a plan to fix it, while she's too busy playing petty politics.
Mr. Speaker, even before the pandemic, waiting lists were going up.
Yes.
So it doesn't wash that this government, after 13 years in power, is blaming everybody but themselves for what people are having to put up with.
I would have cited the numbers.
He appears to be claiming that 11,000 patients waiting more than 18 months is an achievement. The last Labour government reduced waiting times from 18 months to 18 weeks. And he can come back to me when he's achieved that. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, waiting lists are longer than when the Prime Minister made his pledge 5 months ago. The number of people in England waiting to start hospital treatment is the highest since records began. 7.3 million patients left waiting. Now, I know the Prime Minister has his own private GP, so maybe he doesn't appreciate the urgency. But he's left people like my constituent Carol waiting for over a year for an urgent appointment, moved from waiting list to waiting list with appointments cancelled again and again. So if not now, when will waiting lists fall?
Order. It'll continue till I hear the end of this question. The more, if I get any more interruptions, it will take longer. Angela Ray.
Mr. Speaker, they don't want to hear the question because they know the answer. They know the answer.
Damn, she looks raging. You'd love to see it, you know. She's really going after him. Because she's right about the waiting list and all of this stuff here. This is good stuff. This is what I want to see.
Is that they failed the British people. So when will waiting lists fall?
This is what I want to see Labour clip up. Clip this stuff up. Put it everywhere. Put it everywhere, because I guarantee his answer's going to be trash.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I would gently say to the Right Honourable Lady, if she cares
Patronising.
that much about access to our healthcare, why is she opposing our minimum service levels? They will
Nothing. This is
provide
nothing to do with minimum service. This is to do with the strikes that are ongoing. Like, these are waiting lists that have been building since before the strikes. His point here, garbage.
core emergency services with vital cover during healthcare strikes. Does she not think that vulnerable patients deserve that level of care, or is she too weak to stand up to her union paymasters?
I think she's just got to say, what's it called? The reason they're on strike is because you guys won't pay them. You won't pay them the amounts that they deserve. That's the problem. It's you.
Mr. Speaker, we all want minimum service levels. It's this government. It's this government that
Not
has
a great
failed
rhyme.
to provide minimum service levels in all of our trains, in all of our public services, because they've run them down and mismanaged them for the
Okay, yeah,
last
she pulled that one back. That was good.
13 years. Now, it's not just waiting
Looks like Penny Mordaunt's dressed to go to a funeral. Must be the death of Oliver Dowden's career.
times, Mr. Speaker. 13 years after the Landmark Marmot review into child poverty, Sir Michael says this government is on track to make child poverty worse, with more than a quarter of our children living in poverty last year. When I was a young mum, I remember the sick feeling in my stomach not knowing if my wages would cover the bills. Yet his government has taken a wrecking ball to measures by the last Labour government to eradicate child poverty, even abolishing the child poverty unit. They tried to justify this by saying they no longer needed a child poverty unit because they've abolished the child poverty targets. So can he tell us what level of poverty he considers to be a success?
Looks like Rachel Reeves is having Vietnam flashbacks in the background there, but yeah, you know, they got rid of all. I think they even changed the definitions of poverty so they can get around this sort of stuff here. And this is brilliant from Rayner. Really good.
I'd say to
what she's doing now is she's setting up the stage and saying, "You guys have created this mess. What are you going to do about it?" So you know, she's being very clear on that. That it's the Conservative government that have done this by citing the 2010 statistics. So this is really smart from Rayner. A lot smarter than Starmer, honestly.
Right on, lady. This comprehensive schoolboy is not going to take any lectures from the party opposite.
Oh, I went to a state school. Oh, comprehensive. Oh, I'm working class. Oh, shut up, bruv.
About the lives of working people. What I would say is that we have introduced record increases in the national living wage, something that this party introduced. The party opposite failed to do so.
They did the national minimum wage, in fairness. I don't think I'd have to look at, you know, whether it was high enough and whether it kept up with things like inflation. But the national living wage is marketing because it doesn't cover the cost of living, as we are witnessing. The national living wage does not cover it, so it's just PR. That's all it is.
And we have taken 1 million working age people out of poverty altogether. That is the record of my party, and one of which I am very proud.
I don't think I've seen Rayner this focused before. Like, she looks determined, like, to put holes in this guy.
Mr. Speaker, the last Labour government made it their mission to reduce the number of children in poverty by 1 million. We achieved that. Under the Tories, child poverty is nearly back to the level it was when Labour last inherited the Tory mess. After 13 years of the Tories, they're stuck in a conveyor belt of crisis. And while his party's preparing for opposition with their Trump Tribute Act conference over the road...
The C, that's really good. The National Sea Conference, or as people call it, the Nat Sea conference. Yeah, it's a rip-off of CPAC, the thing they have in America, where all the lunatics come together for one major event. She's honestly, she's buried him with every question she's asked. I've not seen a performance like this from at PMQs, even under Corbyn, under Starmer. I think I watched some under Ed Miliband. I've not seen a performance like this where she's buried him with every question, stating the facts, stating this is the situation. It was better under us. You guys have made it much, much worse. That's basically what she's doing here, and it's brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Labour are focused on fixing the real problems facing British people. The Tories have picked their side. They're for the vested interests, for the oil companies and the bankers, for those that are profiting from the crisis and not suffering from it. Whether it's failing the millions of people anxiously waiting for treatment or overseeing a rise in child poverty. And while his colleagues spout nonsense at their carnival of conspiracy, I want to know, when will his party stop blaming everybody else and realise that the problem is them?
I would have gone. I think that they should go with the line of everyone dealt with COVID. Everyone deals with the the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Only one country has to deal with idiots like this. Honestly, I want one of them to drop a line like that at PMQs.
Mr. Speaker, I will proudly defend our record in office.
Oh, God damn.
Crime down 50%.
Crime isn't down 50%. It's because they omit the fraud figures from the crime statistics, as far as I'm aware. So what they do is they take out fraud. And they say, crime is down, when that's not true, because fraud is a crime. I'm witnessing fraud right now, looking at this brother at PMQs.
Near record levels of employment, a record minimum wage.
Record levels of employment, they got corrected on that last week, because it's not record levels of employment, it's still lower than it was pre-pandemic. So he just told another lie.
And what, Mr. Speaker, what's their record? 4 general election defeats, 30 promises already broken, and 1 leader who let anti-Semitism run wild. That is why the British people will never trust the Labour Party.
As boring as it is to say, clearly they're winning in the polls, so I don't think they trust you right now, big man, I'll be honest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Jeremy Hunt trying to hype up his boy, even though he knows he just got absolutely buried. That is easily Rayner's best performance at PMQs, easily the Labour Party's best performance in PMQs for a long, long time. That was phenomenal. That was a lot better than what I have seen, and credit Rayner there. She absolutely slammed Oliver Dowden. That was a fatality.
Would my right honourable friend please send his condolences to the family of Hilton Ward councillor Gillian Lemon, who at the young age of 52 tragically died partway through the election count on Friday. This means that the whole election for all 3 councillors has had to be voided, even though the returning officer was ready to declare 3 Conservative councillors for the Hilton Ward. Perhaps following this dreadful experience, my right honourable friend will confirm that the best way to thank Councillor Gillian Lemon for her service is for the good people of Hilton Ward in South Derbyshire to vote again 3 times for the 3 Conservative candidates on Thursday the 15th of June.
And they're using someone's passing to promote themselves here. That's kind of gross. I can't. That's kind of. I don't like that. It's I'm not comfortable with that. Hey, look, you got a double there. You got P.E. Gullis, and then you've got 30p Lee.
Well, Mr. Speaker, may I extend my deepest sympathies on behalf of these benches and the Conservative Party to Councillor Gillian Lemon's family. We all know how incredibly hard local councillors work, and she was a strong representative of South Derbyshire. And like my honourable friend, I do hope that the people of Hilton Ward will reflect on this by voting for Conservative candidates at the forthcoming election.
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the SNP, Murray Black.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, the Deputy Prime Minister told his constituents in a blog that it was his duty to, and I quote, furnish them with all the facts that are available with regards to Brexit. Today, Brexit Britain faces higher food prices, a lack of workers, a shrinking economy, and a decline in living standards. Why is he happy to ignore those facts?
The Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have one of the fastest growth rates in the whole of the G7 since Brexit. And we all know, and in fairness, we all know the policy of the SNP. And they said it this weekend, I quote, we need to undo Brexit. But let me tell you, if I were them, I'd start by undoing the mess they've left Scotland in and start working with the United Kingdom government and focus on the priorities of the Scottish people, not the priorities of their party.
I ain't gonna lie, dog. The Scottish healthcare system, their NHS is doing better than England, Wales and Northern Ireland, so be careful who you take digs at, bro.
Murray Black.
Check the date. Mr. Speaker, the only thing more deluded than that defence of Brexit is the Labour Party's support of it.
Why you got to do that, bruv? Why you got to be mean like that? Look, you can see Stephen Flynn laughing.
Just today, the world's 4th largest car manufacturer said that Brexit was, and again I quote, a threat to our export business and the sustainability of our UK manufacturing options. Even
I'll be covering that soon.
Nigel Farage can admit that Brexit has failed. So, Mr. Speaker, why can't he?
That was great. Yeah, set up the facts. That was really good. Dowden got the he drew the short straw. He must have done, because he's getting pieced up. That's not true, Akis. I disagree.
The Prime Minister.
But yeah, bro's getting smoked. She was like, look, this is what Vauxhall are saying. Stellantis, they're one of the big car manufacturers in the world, saying, look, Brexit's causing all this damage. What are you going to do about it?
Right. I would say to the Honourable Lady, one of the best ways of getting behind industry in this country is get behind the trade deals we're striking with many countries around the world.
Bro, like, I'll be real, yeah? Who are Vauxhall going to export these cars to? To Bangladesh? To Malaysia? Who are you selling these cars to? They're going to make them here, right? Who are you selling these EVs to?
Which they have singularly failed to oppose. And I see last week, the SNP promised to build a new Scotland. I don't know whether she's aware, but the SNP have been in power for 13 years. Perhaps they should stop their focus on
Hey, he's getting smoked.
independence and focus on the priorities of the Scottish people.
He's getting smoked. He's absolutely. You know, yeah. I thought this PMQ was going to be crap because Dowden's boring, but I've never seen a brother get smoked like this before in Parliament. The last time I saw this was when Ed Miliband smoked Boris Johnson over the Northern Ireland protocol deal, the Northern Ireland Protocol. That was it. That was the last time. This is a fatality. I've never seen a guy just get pieced up like this, just consistently, round after round. Bruh.
Speaker, my constituency has a problem with travellers. My constituency has a problem with travellers pitching on private land and common land and causing a nuisance currently on Parkgate Industrial Estate in Knutsford. Either the police don't have sufficient powers to deal with this issue, or they do have sufficient powers, but they're not using them. So
I think they do have sufficient powers because it'd be classed as trespass anyways if they're on land illegally. So it's down to the fact that I guarantee you it's down to the fact that you guys cut the police numbers. You guys cut the police numbers and they don't bother to come out because it's a minor crime.
will the Deputy Prime Minister get the government to speak with Cheshire Police to ensure that they do have the powers to deal with this plight on our local community and that they use them?
So you're asking for the Home Office to get involved with independent police forces? I don't know, dog. That seems a bit dodgy, in my opinion.
Well, the Right Honourable Lady, my Right Honourable friend, is absolutely right to highlight the misery caused by unauthorised encampments. I've seen this in my own constituency as well. I understand that Home Office officials do regularly liaise with the National Police Chiefs Council on this, but of course my Right Honourable friend, the Home Secretary, will have heard my Right Honourable friend's representations, and I trust she will act on those.
Sir Geoffrey Donaldson.
Big Jeffy.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime
Jeffy
Minister
B.
will be aware
Jeffy
of the
D.
ongoing concerns of unionists in Northern Ireland about our ability to trade freely within the United Kingdom and its internal market, given the continued application of EU law on the manufacture of all goods in Northern Ireland. We now have proposals for a future border operating model that could potentially create further barriers to trade between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. Will the Deputy Prime Minister give me an assurance that the Government will, in law, protect Northern Ireland's ability to trade freely within and with the rest of the United Kingdom?
Yes, well, I would like to say that we've already shown a willingness to legislate to protect Northern Ireland's place within the Union, and we're committed to providing exactly the protections that the Right Honourable Gentleman refers to around Northern Ireland's unfettered access to the whole United Kingdom market. So I can give those assurances, and of course we stand ready to work with the Right Honourable Gentleman and representatives across unionism to reflect the further steps required to strengthen our precious union.
Again, like the DEP failed to understand what the position they're in. Like the Northern Ireland Protocol or the Windsor Framework, whatever you want to call it now, is actually good for them, and it does help strengthen the argument against Irish reunification. They're just too dumb to get it because they don't understand other countries have internal borders. It happens. You know, I spoke to someone in Finland where she was saying like Lapland has different trade arrangements with the rest of Finland, but it's still part of Finland. Like, these people just don't get it, honestly. It just sucks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Throughout the early hours of Saturday morning, I was out with Kathy, Peter, Joe and Tim, who volunteer as Guildford Street Angels. I paid tribute to them and all the volunteers who are out every weekend and in all weathers. But, Mr. Speaker, it's an absolute disgrace that the Liberal Democrat-run council shut the public loose. At night, there are no single-sex spaces for our young women, and they are seeking out dark, secluded areas if they're caught short, which is dangerous. They are at increased risk of sexual assault. Will my right honourable friend join me in calling for the immediate reopening of the town centre loos in Guildford?
The irony is, I think because of the Tory cuts to councils, a lot of the councils cut the amount of public toilets there are. So well done, guys. You got people again. You did it again.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising this very important issue, and sadly,
I really don't get the setup in PMQs because there's a lot of like spare open seats here, but then these people are just standing up. I don't get why they keep doing it.
I'm afraid that's what one might expect from a Lib Dem-run council. I do join her in thanking the Guildford Street Angels for all of their efforts, and I'm sure that they and she will continue to make those views known to Guildford Borough Council.
Gavin Newell.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Many of my constituents are struggling to pay the bills and put food on the table. Food prices have risen by over 19% in the last
Bro has the three-piece suit. I've got to respect that.
year, with the cheapest infant formula up 45%, gas prices up 129%, electricity up 67%. Many report borrowing more money than this time last year, with car manufacturers threatening to move production. The OBR saying 100 billion has been lost in the economy forever, and wages falling further and further behind basic living expenses. So does he really still believe his government's kamikaze Brexit is delivering for the people of these isles?
It's a good question.
Deputy Prime Minister.
I certainly do believe that.
That jacket, that lady with the pink jacket, is bright as hell.
Mr. Speaker, and I would say to the members on those benches that it's only because of the strength of our United Kingdom that we're able to afford the sort of interventions, for example, that we've had with the cost of living, with over £3,300 for every single family in our United Kingdom, paid for by a 75% windfall tax on oil and gas companies. That's the United Kingdom delivering on the cost of living.
Daniel Kaczynski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, we secured over £300 million for the modernisation of A&E services in Shropshire. 6 years on, that money has still not been spent, and construction hasn't started. I have a real concern about the quality of managers within our local NHS trust, that this decision has not been taken. What can my right honourable friend do to help us in Shropshire to ensure that finally the £312 million is spent and that A&E services are modernised, because there is nothing more important than the safety of constituents when they go into A&E services?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I pay tribute to my honourable friend for raising this issue. I know that his constituents are anxious for building work to get underway as soon as possible. And I know that the Department for Health are working closely with NHS England and the Trust to support the development of the scheme. And the Trust is due to submit plans to the Department for Health in the coming months, and the Department will work at pace to review those plans.
Marshal de Cordova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Leaseholders in Battersea are trapped in an outdated and unfair leasehold system. The Secretary of State said, and I quote, "The government would absolutely maintain a commitment to abolish the leasehold system and would bring forward legislation shortly." But we now know that this is no longer the case. So, Deputy Prime Minister, why has the government yet again done another U-turn and yet again broken a never promise to leaseholders to scrap its plans to end the outdated leaseholder system?
So as far as I'm aware, in Scotland they don't have a leaseholder system. You either rent or it's freehold, because it caused problems in one of the jobs I worked in, which was hilarious at the time. So yeah, she's 100% correct. The Tories were meant to deal with some aspects of leaseholding, I believe, but what happened was they had to water down their recent stuff on housing and things like that, because Tory backbenchers and Tory members and donors and whatever are unhappy by it, because they obviously benefit from it. So you have a party that's a party in charge that's has deep conflicts of interest, a major problem.
Well, I'd like to reassure the Honourable Lady and members of this House that the government is committed to reforming the leaseholder system to give homeowners greater control and give cheaper access to leaseholder renewal.
When are you going to do it?
Including a 990-year extension with zero financial ground rent. And we will set out plans for further reforms later in this Parliament.
Nonsense.
Sir Desmond Sway.
Nonsense.
What would be a
Desi.
reason for extending the general election franchise to settle the EU citizens, a population of voters equal to the number in Wales?
The way I say it is, if you're here, you've lived here for a certain amount of time, and you have things like residency and whatever. Even if you want to say if you're planning to stay here long term, because getting citizenship in this country is very expensive, getting a passport and stuff. So if you're here, you're living here, and you want to set your long term future, and you've been here for say 5 years or whatever, I don't see why you shouldn't have a say in voting. You know, one of my relatives, he recently got his citizenship. He was a long-term resident, and he's only just able to vote now, despite the fact that he's, you know, well over the voting age. So, you know, I think that, you know, if you are, they could change the rules around residency, where if you are here for a certain period of time and you spend most of your days here, why shouldn't you have a vote? I don't see this as too controversial.
Well,
depending on how it's done, obviously.
I think my honourable friend is referring to the plans from the party opposite. And it's actually quite interesting that this week, while we're pushing ahead with legislation to break the smuggling gangs, what's Labour's big idea? Give foreign nationals a say in our elections. So there we have it.
Well, in fairness, Labour have been really wishy-washy on that one, which I'm going to cover during the week. You know, it feels like they've kind of backed out of it. I think the Sunday Telegraph might have played them, so I'm going to have to just try and look at that potentially. But it's not. I don't. It looks like they've shelved this promise, honestly.
Conservatives will stop the boats. Labour will rig the votes.
Not the worst pledge line, but the problem is you're not going to stop the boats because you can't. The legislation won't stop it. All you're going to do is detain people. You're going to put kids in cages like they do in America. You're going to remove protections from people who are trafficked here. So, you know, they won't have access to the Modern Slavery Act. So you're going to have men and women who are going to be subjected to the most horrific crimes above just being trafficked here. And you're going to do absolutely nothing to help them. And the people smugglers will know that. And they will use that against these people. So for them to make these arguments is baloney. Let's see. Can we exclude people that are not us even more? Labour are making no commitments. Yeah, they've kind of backtracked on it. I've got it actually up here somewhere. If you guys want to indulge me from it, here it is. So Keir Starmer says plans to give EU citizens who have lived in the UK for a long time the vote are not a priority. He says, quote, "This isn't policy, ellipses, we've got 5 missions, none of them involved electoral change," end quote. So that rules out PR as well. By contrast, he confirms Labour will establish a legal right to work from home, which is good. A legal right to work from home is good. So, you know, I don't have an issue with that. I think that's a good policy. Because a lot of these like managers and stuff like, oh, we want everyone to come back in the office for absolutely no reason, and it's a good way for people to actually save money on commuting, especially given how expensive it is to commute nowadays. It's ridiculous, honestly. So yeah, I don't. Bro's talking. He's talking kind of nonsense here. But Labour have been really wishy-washy on this already. It's only been three days. Big Desi with a forward question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was concerned to read last week.
Well, Kieran, if you say that out loud, apparently you're a Tory shill and you're undermining the Labour Party. So, you know, you always got to be careful when you say Labour echoing Tory policies, because you know, the people accuse you of all sorts. People accuse you of all sorts of stuff.
That the Prime Minister had to be airlifted to a pharmacy in Southampton after suffering electoral dysfunction. Several weeks earlier, he flew all the way from Lancashire to Yorkshire by private jet. Meanwhile, angry rail commuters face the reality of cancellations, longer journey times, and are unable to get to work on time as operators shed services.
Yeah, they have to be pragmatic and strategic and forensic and all of these other things, you know, because, you know, Labour won this big poll lead because of strategy, but the polls are apparently going to tie up, or at least tighten up a bit, into, you know, towards the campaign, despite that. So I don't know.
The public think that the Prime Minister's got his head in the clouds. They're right, aren't they?
Yeah.
It is quite extraordinary, Mr. Speaker, to take lectures from the party opposite about the railways when actually the head of the train drivers' union actually sits on Labour's NEC. And indeed, she was described by the Right Honourable Lady, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, as, quote, one of us. No wonder Labour won't stand up to the militant rail unions. They literally let them drive their policies.
It's an okay attack line, I guess, but the problems with the trains go far deeper than that. You know, like you're talking fundamental problems with the train system in this country, to the point where they nationalised the services of another train company in around the last week. So these arguments, like these people are just, the Tories accuse people, other parties are playing petty politics, but that's the party of petty politics right there, or here.
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah.
incredible
Decide.
regeneration work is taking place on Teesside, led by our Mayor, Ben Houchin.
Okay, so I've spoken to someone about this, and I need to, if I haven't got the article up, I need to go back and find it. But he's talking about Teesside. Now, the issue is that apparently some of the politicians in Teesside sold the land that was worth millions for about £100 to the developing company. And there might have been special assurances to some of the other companies that are going to set up shop there regarding indemnity. And also the fact that the dredging around the Teesside port is causing massive die-offs in the shellfish in and around that area as well. So, he mentions Teesside. Time to talk about the corruption and some of the alleged other problems within Teesside.
We have seen a shameful attempt to smear the amazing Teesworks project, led by the Honourable Member for Middlesbrough, who I've given advance notice to. Will he confirm that it was always an integral part of the business case that the private sector should co-invest alongside government, and that the Teesworks arrangements themselves have been checked and approved by the government? And will he reconfirm his full support for the Teesworks projects, reassure investors, and join me in calling for the Labour Party to apologise for talking down Teesside?
Well, my right honourable friend is absolutely correct to raise this issue. It is the UK's first free port, and it continues to attract billions of pounds of private sector investment, creating jobs and supporting the local economy.
Now, the problem with these free ports is that the rules, the laws within them, they're almost like a nation within themselves, I guess, where they can set up their own rules and things like that. So the problem with these free ports is that the wages and stuff will be lower, the rules, the health and safety regulations, everything else will be lower. And the other problem is that it's not necessarily that the money is new money being invested in Teesside. It's money that could have been invested elsewhere in the UK is going to Teesside, because that's where these companies will make the most profit. So it's not necessarily new money, it's just existing money that could have gone elsewhere. So the arguments that they're making are just baloney.
And I think the whole House will see through the inexcusable attempts by the Labour Party to talk down those successes on Teesside, where local leaders are working tirelessly to improve that region for the first time in a generation.
I don't know how bad or good the situation is in Mexico, so I'll leave that one to you. But it's gonna be really bad on Teesside. I'll tell you that for free. Those kind of charter cities those kind of charter cities and free ports and stuff that the Tories pushed, that stuff is the stuff of nightmares.
In 2011, the first year that the Tories came into government, 61,000 people received emergency food parcels from food banks. In 2022-23, that figure had gone up to nearly 3 million. 1 million of them children.
Bro, it's so focused.
Gone up every year that the Conservatives have been in power bar one. So, will he tell the House, is that a record that he proudly defends?
God damn, that's a good question. That's a good question. The question on food banks, it's pretty good. And it's true. They can fiddle the definitions of poverty and all sorts of other things, but the food bank usage has gone up through the roof, and that's under their watch. And they can't blame the pandemic for it. They can't blame the Russia invasion of Ukraine on it. It's gone up consistently since they've been in charge.
I'm very proud of the fact that this government has given record numbers of people the opportunity to have jobs and employment, which is...
Bro, the jobs, oh my days. There are people who are working, right, that still have to go to food banks, nurses, BT workers, so many other different people, right? It's on record that they have food banks set up where they work. So after they finish their job, they go to the food bank because they can't afford it. It doesn't matter how many jobs you give these people, purely because of the fact that it doesn't pay enough to support them. That's the problem. And you can be all 30p and you can make meals for 30p. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Don't worry, Roseanne. You only missed Oliver Dowden getting buried by Angela Rayner and Maori Black. I'll go back and watch it if you get a chance. But he's been. They put several holes in this man. About here, probably one up here, here and here. You know, he got pieced up. Every question was a burial.
Surest route out of poverty, and it is the case that I believe up to 3.6 million new jobs have been created under this government.
Walker. This jobs argument is nonsense because they don't pay enough.
It's truly excellent news to see England rising up the international league tables for reading to become the highest performing country in the Western world. That's testament to the hard work of our teachers and the dedication of our honourable friend for Bognor to follow.
I mean, no thanks to you. The teachers are struggling because they don't get paid enough. There's a massive lack of teachers, and school budgets are constantly being cut, and the class sizes are increasing. So it's not down to you, big boy. It's down to those teachers who are putting in the work. All you've done is hinder them. All your Tories have done is hinder them. Absolute joke.
Evidence-based policy. But this progress will only be sustained if children are in school regularly, able to learn. So can I strongly commend to him and to the government the 10-minute rule bill presented by my honourable friend Phil Meon Valley. It has cross-party support, delivers on key recommendations of the Education Select Committee and the Children's Commissioner. The government should adopt it as soon as possible.
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right to highlight those brilliant figures which show that we've now jumped to the 4th best in the whole world for reading. And I certainly see in schools it's much more demanding than it was in my day, and that's tribute to the ministerial team that have done such a fabulous job. I will, of course, examine the details of the 10-minute rule bill to which he refers.
Tommy Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, it is an open secret that many in the Conservative Party would wish to roll back the democratic gains of devolution either in part or completely. The noble Lord Frost, former minister, the architect of the disastrous Brexit agreement, and now I believe seeking a safe Tory seat in this chamber, recently let the cat out of the bag when he said the government should review and roll back some devolved powers.
Just try it.
Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with him?
Hear, hear.
I would say to the honourable gentleman, the only thing that will destroy devolution is a vote for independence in Scotland, as advocated by those on those benches.
I mean, if anything, that's going to really push devolution because, the idea of devolution is you take powers out of Westminster and you give them to the devolved governments, right, like Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So, to really push devolution, you would give all the powers away to Scotland when they get independence. So, if anything, getting Scottish independence supports devolution doesn't weaken it at all. It's really bizarre arguments I'm hearing here.
Matt Hancock. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
No.
And can I congratulate my right honourable friend on a brilliant first performance at Prime Minister's question.
What? He got buried. Is that sarcasm? Put it in chat. Do you think that was sarcasm? He got buried. Penny Mordaunt's dressed like she's going to a funeral because she knew Burrow was going to get pieced up. God damn.
Will he keep the government laser focused on the issues that matter to people, like the cost of living in the NHS, and on the issues of the future, like artificial intelligence, which needs regulatory attention, and ignore the reactionary voices, no matter where they come from?
Okay, that's a dig at the some of the Tories as well, because they've been quite reactionary at that weird Nazi conference thing. So it's not just a dig at the other side; it's a dig at the other members of the House on his side as well. Tories obsess over AI. You drag people into select committees if you want to know more about that sort of stuff. Laser focused on the NHS. We know you weren't laser focused on the NHS, bro, when you were there. 100%. We know what you were up to. So.
Well, my right honourable friend is absolutely right to highlight this. I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of this country in industries across the piece, including digital or indeed film and television in my own constituency. We're genuinely world-leading, creating high-quality jobs that we want our children or grandchildren to have.
But we're not going to educate them to take up some of these jobs, because that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Half the children in Newcastle Central are growing up in poverty. Shocking. Over the last 5 years, the delivery of food parcels to North East children has risen by 250%. The number of North East children who are homeless rose by 50% last year. On average, their parents' wages will have fallen by £1,000, and if any of this affects their mental health, they face a 5-month wait for treatment. Why is his government making it so hard for our kids?
Fatality. It's another fatality right there. That is wow. You know, like I didn't realise things were so bad in certain parts of the country. Honestly, it needs to be covered more. I think in the national press. I wouldn't be surprised if the local papers are covering it. Maybe that's something I need to look at more local papers. But that's really bad, guys.
Well, I really think this House needs a correction on the facts, given what's come from the party opposite.
What?
It is the case that because of our national living wage, defined as more than at least 2/3 of median income, that's at its lowest point for years, and we've actually lifted 1.7 million people out of absolute poverty altogether. That is the track record of this government.
What the, like you at a national level, whatever, you know, if we're charitable, and I'm not feeling it today. You know, he's telling the truth, right? In certain areas, it's clearly not working, and that's what the government need to look at. You know, just as the Labour MP mentioned, I think it's probably her constituency, that they're facing all of these problems. So, you know, the argument that nationally we're doing better and whatever, it doesn't make sense, because in certain places it's going really badly, and that's what the government should be looking at, rather than taking a you know, trying to pretend they're taking a wholesale approach. Is look at specific areas and see what's going on there, because inflation is taking a lot of money out of people's pockets. Among other problems as well, you know, child homelessness. What the hell? Like, how's that even happening?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The people of Longport and Burslem, as well as Port Hill and my neighbouring constituency, neighbour of Newcastle and Lyme, are suffering because of cowboy waste disposalers like Staffordshire Waste, who have now been again done for having waste that was not meant to be on site and have been given a notice by the Environment Agency. What support can I get in holding these people to account and making sure that their retrospective planning application for a site that they're using, which they didn't get planning permission on before using, is rejected by Stoke-on-Trent City Council?
Well, my honourable friend is right to raise this this issue of those kind of people, and indeed we often see them associated with fly tipping, which is a blight.
Oh, to be fair, he didn't ask a stupid question this time, so you got to give him respect for that, I guess.
On our landscape. I will ensure that I raise all the issues that he has raised with me with my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, who has ministerial responsibility for this.
Rachel Vaskell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Crisis mental health services are in crisis. Patients and families gaslit and at risk. It is Mental Health Awareness Week, but no government awareness to ensure my constituents are safe, nor funding and workforce needs met. So why is his government sat on their hands with a devastating report sat on the Health Secretary's desk while patients in York and across the NHS are being failed? Can I and the Trust have an urgent meeting?
Well, I'm sure one of my ministerial colleagues in the health team will be happy to have that meeting. I would just say that under this government, we've put more money into mental health services, and actually we're funding 150 wider capital schemes. So this government has made mental health services a priority.
Final question, Virginia Crosby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week is Wales Tourism Week, an opportunity to celebrate one of Wales's most important businesses, which represents 10% of all jobs, supports Welsh farmers and food producers, and generates £6 billion in economic activity each year. Would the Deputy Prime Minister join me in thanking all those that work in the Wales tourism sector, and would he agree with me that this UK government's TIPS bill demonstrates its commitment to supporting the tourism sector, unlike Labour in Cardiff, whose proposed tourism tax will undermine visits and undermine jobs?
Well, of course, I'm most happy to give that commitment to my honourable friend. Indeed, I have spent many happy family holidays in Wales and plan to do so again next year.
That completes Prime Minister's questions.
All right, well, I want to wrap up by around 1 o'clock, and so I guess I got my wish. Do you want to take a moment's silence for Oliver Dowden's career after he got buried by Mary Black and Angela Rayner, who had an especially brilliant performance today. So credit to them, really. So a moment's silence, please, for Dowden's career. Yeah, that should do it. That's all he deserves. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I've got to go meet my mate, so I've got to go. I'm still debating about whether adding another live stream is a good idea. I'll put a poll up. I'll put a poll up on the channel You know, I'll do it. I'll do it now. I'll do it now after I finish this, and then I'll ask people what day's best to do it on. So it's going to be Wednesday. Probably no, actually not Wednesday. It'd be say Thursday, Thursday, Monday, Saturday, or Sunday. Thursday, Monday, Saturday, or Sunday. Yes. I'll try and fit it around those days. Honestly, man, this has been a really good episode of or not episode, but really good show in here for the opposition, because Rayner looked laser focused. I wonder what question I'll be asking on Friday. Well, don't keep me in suspense for too long. But that was a really good performance from Rayner there. I was very, very impressed, and she looked, like I said, she looked laser focused, and massive respect for that. That was wild. It was absolutely wild. That's what I want to see from the Labour Party, just setting the stage, setting the facts, and saying this is what you guys did, this is what you guys have done to this country, and saying how can you fix it when you are the ones who caused the problem. Beautiful, honestly. Rayner's got a lot more. Rayner is a lot better at this sort of stuff than Starmer is. Honestly, that was... Yeah, and when Matt Hancock was like, I want to congratulate Dowden on his first performance at PMQs, I'm like, bro got buried. I've never seen a performance that bad before. Guy came on his debut, got nutmegged 3 times and got flip-flapped. Honestly, that was mental. That was absolutely mental. God damn. He just, wow. But yeah, honestly, I'd recommend, if you guys missed some of the bits with Rayner or Mary Black, check out Politics Joe, or I think Max will probably cover it later today. Have a look at the clips, because that was a fatality. That was brutal. Each question was as good as the last question, and she took him apart. Absolutely took him apart. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you do watch this back, let me know what you think, because that was, wow. I just kind of breathtaking here. Honestly, it was that good. But I'll catch you guys next week. Bye bye.